coming in from Australia. Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull is abolishing the 457 visa program for skilled migrants. So why should you care about this? Because Indians constitute 20% of the migrant population in Australia and 27%, that is the highest number of those who work using the 457 visa. Mr. Turnbull said that these visas will no longer be passports for jobs, as he put it, that could and should go to Australians.
The 457 visa is abolished. It will be replaced by a new system that will be manifestly, rigorously, resolutely conducted in the national interest to put Australians and Australian jobs first. That's our commitment. Australian jobs, Australian values. So I encourage all the businesses here and at home to seek more opportunities for us to travel in the same direction, helping and complementing one another as we do. Each of us does better and walks further when we walk together. Now is the time to begin.
Interestingly, this coming a week after Turnbull visited India, made headlines for his bonhomie with Prime Minister Modi and called India Australia's partner in growth. Back in Australia, he has vowed to save local jobs. So what is the 457 visa and why is it a big deal? More than 95,000 foreign workers are in Australia as we speak on the 457 visa, and these are numbers that came in September last year. Majority of visa holders, that's 26.6% to be precise, are Indians. This visa basically allows skilled workers to work in Australia for a 4-year period. 1.13 million people in Australia at the same time are underemployed, according to their government. The government will also introduce a non-discriminatory workforce test to ensure that employers are not discriminated against they do not rather discriminate against Australian workers. So what does it mean really for Indian workers and students in Australia and those planning to move? Immigration Minister Peter Dutton, for one, has said that anyone now in Australia on a 457 visa will not be affected by the new arrangement. Joining me in the studio is Charles Thompson. He is an Australian journalist. Good evening, Charles. Australia, we know, is a country of migrants. And for them to restrict skilled immigrants is rather odd. What is it that prompted this decision?
Firstly, this is purely internal politics in Australia. It's a decision that normally you would not expect from a Prime Minister of a Conservative party. If we just go back for a moment, the 457 visa, it originally had a different name. It started in, I think, 1998. It was introduced by our Prime Minister, who was also Conservative, John Howard. I think in 2012, it was named the 457 visa. The purpose of the 457 visa is quite simple. It's when we do not have highly skilled individuals in a company and we desperately need them. So this visa was created. And it has some simple checkpoints along the way. And highly skilled Australians are involved in vetting that visa process. So this is purely about our upper house. Just like in India you have the Raj Sabha, so in Australia we have the Senate. And they need the support of the minority parties. And the minority parties have also, a couple of them have been championing the cancellation of the 457 visa. What's interesting in this is immediately he's saying he's going to create a new visa. But it's going to be the same thing. However, I was reading through the list, and I've been out of touch with visas for a while, but I was reading through the list, and I saw goat farmers. Now, I am sure Australia has the capacity to train its own people to look after goats. That I'm sure about. But when we come into
They want goat farmers.
Yes, it was on the list. So that's now going to be abolished. So no more goat farmers. But when we're talking about highly skilled IT individuals, we simply don't have them. And we need them. So the other part is, why is India so interested in this? It's not for India, but it's for individual Indians who want to migrate to Australia. Australia is one of those places where people migrate from every part of the earth, and they love to live there. We're 3 times the size of India in landmass and the population of Delhi.
So can you tell us a little more about the new visa provisions and how will Indians be affected, and how many will be affected?
That's hard to say. It'll have to pass through the parliament. But my gut feeling is what they will do is it will simply be the old visa repackaged and certain changes will be made. For example, they talk about stricter English testing requirements. Under the old visa, they are saying that under a 457, I believe it's 4.5 or 5 for the IELTS. IELTS. Now that goes up to 9. All they had to do was say 6 or 7 or 8 was required, and the English test bar has been risen. Similarly with all the other requirements, all they had to do was lift. So this is really about internal politics for the Australian public. The difficulty, of course, is if you're an Indian who is just preparing, or a company was just about to sponsor you, this puts a whole spanner in the works.
They don't want pilots, they don't want web developers, they don't want radio jockeys, they don't want radio journalists, not butchers. I was reading that list of 200 jobs, and a lot of people do not qualify, which is very interesting reading, I must say.
Yeah, but the whole idea of the list is that if there is if we've got too many lawyers, so the lawyers won't be on the list. But if we don't have enough butchers, and there simply isn't enough butchers in the market, then the idea is that this visa allows people who meet certain criteria to migrate to Australia to become butchers.
So what about those who are currently studying? A lot of Indian students study in Australia, and many of them hope to get placed in Australian companies to repay the loans that they take here. Where do they stand?
So what Australia has tried very hard to do, and I actually appreciate this, is to de-link those people coming to study in Australia with the idea of permanent residency. The idea should be that a person coming to Australia to study, foremost, is to educate themselves and skill themselves so when they return to their country, whether it be India or any other country, they are better skilled and better able to get employment. The idea should not be that they go on to get residency. Because what happened many years back when we had the problem with the Indian students is we had people from the Punjab community who were doing hairdressing, who don't cut hair. They were simply doing it to become a permanent resident. We had lots of young people from the Indian subcontinent doing a social welfare course who had no intention of coming back to their country, whether it be India, Bangladesh or Pakistan, to help the needy. They were simply wanting permanent residence. So we've tried very hard to break that. But naturally, Australia is such a young, vibrant, multicultural country. People want to go, and people are looking at every possible way to migrate. And now, on the flip side of this, if you're a very highly skilled IT or a doctor, the salaries are very good. The standard of living is very good. So it's a very attractive destination.
How should India see this move? And this is my last question. Just days after Malcolm Turnbull was famously photographed with Prime Minister Modi on the steps of the Akshardham temple when he took this metro ride, and he said that we are on the growth, the path to growth together. Then he goes back and he says, we will not allow so many Indians to come and take our jobs.
Well, we're actually saying we will not allow so many foreigners, full stop.
Most of whom are Indians.
Yeah, but that's part of it. Actually, I put it to you another way. Maybe for India as a nation, it's a good thing because you keep more of your people and your best, because Australia has a habit of cherry-picking the best. So for India, I think it's a good thing. For an Indian citizen wanting to migrate to Australia, it makes it a lot more difficult.
That's a good way to put it. Charles Thompson, good to have you on the show. Thank you very much for joining us here.
Thank you.
And we're wrapping this edition of Gravitas with who else but Donald Trump. A video of the US President and First Lady has gone viral on the internet. Take a look at this. Thanks for watching.